table that I believe is the table from Hibbert Township, so sentimental value. So please sign them, but we will get our meeting started. Just before we call it to order, though, I would ask our guests and council, if you so wish, we'll just bow our heads and have a moment of reflection. Okay, thank you. Just remind council members that Councillor Fournier is on Zoom tonight. So we won't be able to see him, probably not, but he will be able to hear us. And certainly if he wishes to speak, he can unmute his mic and talk to us. And if I try and remember, I'll ask him every once in a while if he has a comment or not. So the first item up is the confirmation of the agenda. It's a fairly large agenda, 21 items. Is there anything? No, just back up a little bit. So the confirmation of the agenda, is there anything there that anybody would have a conflict with at this time? Okay, so we'll do a motion to accept the agenda, moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? That is carried. And again, I'll ask if anybody has a conflict of interest. Okay, good. So the consent agenda is there, and there is 21 items on the consent agenda. Is there anything there that anybody would like clarified or pulled and dealt with separately? Councillor Duck?
Yes, I'd just like to have a conversation potentially later about 4.11. The Township of Howick resolution regarding school bus stop arm cameras. It's something that North Perth has put in, and I think it's something we should talk about. Obviously, they're trying to improve the safety of children when getting on the bus, and it would be a program funded through fines received by people breaking the law. So I think it's something that we should talk about, maybe potentially supporting.
We can talk about it right now if you want, that you've started it. So I gather that your comments, you're in favor, we should pull it and support it. Okay. Do you want to make that a motion? Okay. Do we have a seconder for that particular item? Councillor Harold. Okay, discussion, and if you want to add a little bit more, Ryan, you can.
Basically, it's a call to the province to look into the use of cameras on bus stop arms, obviously to catch any people that are speeding past as they're stop with their lights on. So I certainly think this is a good idea with the different rural and urban schools that we have, and it's something that we should support North Perth and the Township of Howick in doing. And it's just my thoughts.
Okay, I'm going to throw Deputy Mayor Jankowski under the bus on this one. He can speak on where we're at the county, because it has been at the county on a couple occasions, and he can explain maybe where the issue is, but there's still no reason that we can't support it if you wish.
Through you, your worship. So at the county level, this has been an ongoing discussion about the stop arm cameras on buses. There's some legal technicalities that need to be worked out in terms of trying to prosecute the offenders, in terms of who's driving the car, what the license plate of the car is at the time that the infraction allegedly takes place. So there's a lot of technical issues from the legal side of it. There's technical issues, I'll say, with the judicial / administration part of it, insofar as prosecuting the cases. The cost of prosecuting the cases, if I remember correctly from what county staff have said so far, the cost would outweigh the actual fine revenue generated through prosecution. So Perth County is working on it. They are collaborating with neighboring municipalities, such as the region of Waterloo and other jurisdictions, to find out lessons learned, what mistakes to avoid in trying to set up a program. And then the third aspect is with the province, with the Attorney General's office, trying to set up how to administer this through the judicial process in a clean fashion that avoids as much bureaucracy as possible. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of moving parts on this issue that need to be worked out between the county and the province. But in the meantime, supporting the resolution has merit because there will be costs involved and it is a safety issue. So some added push from the local municipalities to get this program headed in the right direction is worthwhile.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Anybody else, any comments on that particular resolution? Okay, it's been duly moved and seconded. All those in favor of supporting it? Opposed, if any? So that motion's carried. Does anybody have anything else they want to pull out of the consent agenda? Okay, if not, we'll have a motion to accept the consent agenda items 4.1 to 4.10 and 4.12 to 421. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Foster and seconded by Councillor Phelps. And I'm just going to draw your attention to one thing, and we can still approve it the way it is, but the nominations for Senior of the Year, we usually do that, and we don't have to do it tonight, but just keep it in your back pocket and think about it until the next meeting, and we can see if we can nominate somebody for Senior of the Year. Okay, so that's been duly moved and seconded. All those in favor of the consent agenda? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Good. All right, it brings us down to public meeting, and we will adjourn our council meeting at 7:09. So we'll call this meeting to order at 7:09. The public meeting is being held in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. I will ask Clerk Hobson for the purpose of this public meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this public meeting is to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments about a proposed amendment to bylaw 100-1998, the zoning bylaw. Council will not make a decision at this public meeting, but will gather information and make a decision at a future regular council meeting. If any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision made by council, they are to provide their name, mailing address, and email to clerk@westperth.com. A person or public body may appeal a decision if they have made an oral submission at this public meeting or a written submission to council prior to the passing of the bylaw.
Okay, thanks, Dan. This is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment. The application D1402-2023 was initiated by Carolyn Baker on behalf of 2786952 Ontario Limited. The proposed amendment affects the property described as Park Lot 33, Plan 339, 34 Napier Street, Mitchell Ward, in the municipality of West Perth. I will ask the clerk if he can confirm that the notices were sent.
I can confirm notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the lands affected by the proposed amendment and to those agencies prescribed by legislation. A sign advertising tonight's meeting was also posted on the subject property on March 14th, 2023.
Okay, thanks, Dan. I'm going to call upon John Bice, planner for the County of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received. So John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So this zoning bylaw amendment is actually it'll be a condition of consent. There's two consent applications on the board right now. Their applications are BO4-23 and BO5-23. This zoning bylaw amendment will only apply to consent BO5-23, which we'll get into later today. So the property is 34 Napier Street. You can see on the red star on the presentation there. The owner is a numbered company and the agent is Carolyn Baker. And Mayor McKenzie and Dan have gone through the public meeting portion, so I will skip that and move on. So this is a rezoning application for the lot like I had just said, VO 523. The developer has applied to change the zoning from what's currently residential 3 or residential medium density 3 to R4-14. The -14 is a special provision that we'll get into as we go. So the new lot will have a lot area, and this is from the consent, but the zoning bylaw amendment will apply. So the new lot will have a lot area of 1,287 meters squared. It's about a third of an acre with frontage on Clayton Street and Napier Street. The developer is proposing to build a 3-unit, 1-story townhouse, all with access from Napier. Property is zoned Mitchell Residential Medium Density Zone 3, which does not permit a townhouse. The developer has applied to change the zoning to R4-14, which is the Mitchell Residential High Density Zone. The proponent has also applied for a site-specific amendment for a reduction in the rear yard, where 7.5 meters is required from the zoning bylaw, and the reduction would go to 2.6 meters. So the property is designated residential in the Mitchell Ward official plan. The types of dwellings that are permitted within this residential designation include single detached dwellings, semi-detached dwellings, triplex, duplex, townhouses, and apartments. So it kind of allows for an array of residential units. The provincial policy statement supports intensification within settlement areas, as Mitchell Ward is a settlement area, which means that the development of the property at a higher density than currently exists through the development of vacant and or underutilized lots with previously developed areas. So the proposed change from R3 to R4, currently the subject lands, they are vacant, where we see on the screen here, this is an image looking to the west on Napier Street. They're currently vacant and have trees kind of surrounding the perimeter. The rezoning that would take place to go to R4 would permit the proposed use of the townhouse dwelling. Considering the goals of the PPS regarding intensification and the Perth County and Mitchell official plan regarding housing, the R4 zone will allow the site to be developed at a higher density. That will help us bring the rental dwellings units online for the Mitchell community. The area surrounding the subject lands is zoned for medium to low densities. So a summary of the lot areas proposed and in the immediate area is provided in the table that I've created there. And really we created that in order to just kind of compare the surrounding area with what is being proposed. And I'll let you guys kind of take that in as I get into this a little bit more. So the Mitchell official plan provides ranges for gross densities for different housing types and provides a density range for townhouse developments of 30 to 50 units per hectare. The developer here is proposing a 3-unit townhouse development for the about a 1/3 acre parcel. The proposed development would constitute about 23 units per hectare, which is about 6.7 units per hectare below the density guidelines in the Mitchell Ward official plan for townhouse developments. And so although the density proposed is below the Mitchell Ward official plan guidelines, the proposal offers a larger than required interior side yard setback from the neighboring 57 Clayton Street. The required interior side yard setback within the R4 zone for townhouse developments is 4.5 meters, whereas the proposed separation setback here is 10.6 meters, and that's from 57 Clayton. So this added separation and reduction in the proposal density target aids in the townhouse's conformity with the neighboring medium to low density kind of parameters. So the surrounding area ranges anywhere between 3 units per hectare at the low end to about 28.6 units per hectare on the high end. The proposed townhouse development would have a density of, again, about 23 units per hectare, which is within the range within the surrounding neighborhood. So based upon the low density residential nature of the neighborhood and the larger than required interior side yard setback, the development of the 3-unit townhouse is considered appropriate with a slight reduction in the density guidelines. So the site-specific reduction in the rear yard that I had previously referred to from 7.5 to 2.6 meters, you can see on the screen here. The rear yard is actually the northernmost portion of that property to be severed. That would rear onto the retained dwelling from B05-23. So section 1256 of the West Perth zoning bylaw requires that townhouse developments have a 7.5 rear yard setback. The current proposal proposes 2.6, which would be about a 5.1 meter reduction. The new residential lot will require a planting strip along the lot lines between 34 Napier and 57 Clayton Street, according to section 12.5.13 of the West Perth zoning bylaw. If the townhouse development had created lot lines to divide each of the units, the property into 3 parcels essentially, instead of proposing the 1 parcel 3-unit rental composure as it is now, the 34 Napier Street rear yard setback that you see in the red line there would actually have been an interior side yard setback, and that would have been a 4.5 meter requirement, which would reduce the need or the 5.1 meters down to about 1.9. So since the severed property would be required to construct a planting strip, the 7.5 meter setback is considered technical in nature, and the proposal allows for an increased amenity space along Clayton Street there, 57 Clayton. The proposed request for site-specific relief is considered appropriate. Okay, so notice of public meeting we kind of got into with Dan and Mayor McKenzie speaking to that. So I'll just skip that portion. But we have received 1 comment or objection from a neighboring proposal, and maybe I think that individual is likely here, so maybe I'll just leave it at that and let that neighbor speak. So I can answer any questions, and I'll thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, John. Maybe you can just stay there for the time being, and we'll go through the formal aspect of it here. So yeah, as I just indicated, this is kind of the formal part of the public meeting. So at this time, the applicant's agent, Carolyn Baker, and I'm looking and I don't see, oh, there's Carolyn. I didn't see you, Carolyn, sorry. So if you want to come up and add anything at this time, you may.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right? Perfect. Good evening, Mayor McKenzie, members of council. As noted, my name is Caroline Baker. I'm a registered professional planner with Baker Planning Group. I'm here this evening for both consent applications later on in the agenda, as well as the public meeting for the zone change. The builder is also in attendance, Mr. Matt Feeney from Feeney Design Build, who does own the property. Certainly, Mr. Bice provided a comprehensive and thorough presentation to you with respect to the application. If I could just ask if the consent sketch, that should work well. Perfect. Thank you. So just a few additional items to note. The owners are proposing to build what would effectively look like street townhouses from Clayton and Napier Street. So they would be 3 units, all 1 story in height, being a bungalow that would be attached. The reason they're shown on 1 parcel and not on a future 3 parcels, so 1 unit on 1 lot, is their intent is to offer this as a rental product, again, adding to the rental opportunities in Mitchell, depending on resident needs between rental and buying. Certainly, with respect to the zone change going from an R3 to an R4, That is to permit the street townhouse product. And as noted, in our view, the rear yard reduction is technical in nature. It's really because it's all one lot and it being a corner lot and the orientation. Now, I know there's been much discussed and many pros and cons to Bill 23, but certainly did just want to note that under those new requirements under the Planning Act, in fact, in service settlement areas, 3 dwelling units are permitted on any residential lot. Again, provided it's in a settlement area and service. So with respect to that, really the key focus of this zone change is addressing that rear yard setback, which in our view was technical in nature. So just want to provide those few points of clarification, but I can answer either questions of council staff or any members of the public in attendance this evening. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Carolyn. So I guess at this time, I'll ask if there's anybody present other than the applicant or the owner that wishes to speak in support of this application. In support of the application? That's what I said, support. Okay, at this time then, I will ask if there's anybody present that wishes to speak in opposition to the application. And I know Bernie has his hand up, and you can come up to the mic here and address council if you wish.
Evening. I guess my main point is, why do we want to build townhouses in a detached area? I moved here in 2010. And when I came to Mitchell, figuring that's where I'm going to retire, and I have, I checked out Mitchell and a whole bunch of other places, and I looked at these lots, and there was 1 through 11. I wanted 1 or 11. I thought would be the best for me. I looked in 2009 and talked to the building department, and I was told that they would not be building or sever this property that we're in discussion with, and that nobody would be building across the road. Well, lo and behold, times change, right? Now we've got duplexes across from us and now proposed townhouses. I realize life goes on and we change. I've got no problem with that. But townhouses, put them in a townhouse area. Duplexes, put them in a duplex area. Okay, semis, put them in a semi area. Why do we go along and say we're going to wreck the neighborhood? Whatever, I don't know. I'm not a talker, so I just don't understand why we have to have that in there. And then we're coy as far as I'm concerned and how we describe some of this. It's no big change, you know, it's within our obligations, our density, our residential density factors and all that. That's fine, okay? But 7 point some meters down to 2 point some meters, I got the impression that was no big deal. Well, damn it, that's a big deal. You come and live there and put in with that. There's just no way that that should be allowed, in my opinion. Go build the townhouses where they should be built in a separate location. I mean, if we're worried about density around here, maybe we should get rid of that old building we just got over there when you put this one up and put some townhouses over there. You know, like there, we use that density over there. I don't know what else to say other than I just think it's ridiculous to put townhouses in where detached are.
Okay.
Well, it's even worse, rental units. Not to knock people that rent, because I know people have to rent. I'm lucky enough I don't now. But yeah, that's what I've got to say. I just totally against it, and especially going from 7 point some meters down to 2 point some meters. I mean, you'll know when I go to the John, for God's sakes.
Okay, John or Carolyn, and you kind of indicated in your presentation, we've got a unit here. How many under the proposed Bill 23? How many units can we have in there? If you can use the mic, it would probably be better.
Or
Okay, under the new Bill 23, how many units can we put there?
As of right zoning, based on Bill 23, 3 units.
Okay,
zone 3, you could put 3 units in there.
No, under the current zoning, right?
That's what I'm asking. You
Yes.
can?
Correct.
Are you changing the residential density on that then?
This is Bill 23 that's been proposed by the government of Ontario.
Proposed, but it's not in
It
line right
is,
now.
sorry, not proposed. It is in effect
When did it?
as of
when was that?
November 2022.
Sorry,
November 2022.
how come we weren't told about it as residents?
It's common knowledge. The province passed that back in
Why
November.
weren't we told about it then?
Well, you got as much information on it as what we did. Like, it's been in the papers, it's been on the news. You can hardly turn a radio on today that you don't hear about the.
That might be okay
Bill
for you
20.
because you're in that line. This is what you do. Us normal people, okay? I don't bother with that unless I get something in writing or see something. I wouldn't even know about this if I wouldn't have walked by the sign.
But anyways, I just wanted to point out that you could put 3 units there without a zoning bylaw change currently.
Okay.
Other people that want to speak in opposition, come in. Just state your name, by the way, when you come up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Tandeep Sidhu. I reside at 67 Clayton Street and have since October 2020. So the concerns that I will present today largely pertain to concerns presented by residents of both Kenton Street and Clayton Street, many of whom have refused to attend tonight because they believe that their voices will not be heard by council. I, however, believe that there is a potential to at least have the voice heard, or at least the concerns heard, because of that, in that sense, council then has the opportunity to consider the following concerns. There are a number of mature trees on the lot, each of which have deep root systems. The removal of those trees is going to inherently affect the drainage of the property and has the potential to cause an adverse environmental impact to the community. I would like to ask Baker Planning Group if any environmental assessment has been conducted on the proposed changes to the property, and what assessments have been conducted as it relates to the changes in drainage that emerge from the removal of mature trees on that lot. So that's the first concern. I think we'll do the concerns one at a time, if that works.
Yep, well, I'll get Carolyn to answer that for you.
Sorry, I'll just hold this here. So thank you very much for your question. Certainly the site does have trees located on it. With respect to the proposed development, as we head from north to south on Napier Street, so the consent application that's on council later this evening, there is a mature row of trees from the existing home moving south that would be retained. They've made that first lot larger to retain those trees. Then when you move in terms of the existing house that's proposed to be retained, there are trees on that property as well. Those will be retained. And when we move southerly to the proposed lot that would accommodate the 3 units, certainly some trees will need to be removed to facilitate the construction of the dwellings and the new driveways. The trees on the site are not a protected significant woodland or natural feature that would have triggered or required what we would call an environmental impact study to look at those trees as a significant natural feature. With the tree removals, certainly if this application is approved, the applicant will be required to submit building permit applications. Those will be submitted to West Perth staff and will include lot grading and drainage plans to deal with matters such as grading. Certainly the requirement of the municipality is any new development. It's what we call pre to post. So it means any existing stormwater cannot be increased. So your post flow from development has to equal pre-flow and not increase drainage nor increase drainage offsite. It's first principles of stormwater management, and certainly staff are very accustomed to reviewing and ensuring that that's provided for any development.
And your next question?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McKenzie. Another thing to just add real quick is as we get through later this evening regarding the consent application, there is a recommendation as one of the conditions for a development agreement, mostly to pertain to servicing. But one of the recommendations for that condition is to discuss within the development agreement tree retention and the replantings of trees that need to come down. So that, thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Go ahead.
The second point in order pertains to resident concerns as it relates to the safety of children in the neighborhood. Both Kenton Street and Clayton Street are each occupied by several young families with several young children who play on the road. Numerous residents have reported to me that they have concerns as it pertains to the introduction of traffic. The first order in today's meeting was about ensuring the safety of children through the installation of cameras on bus stop signs. The question that I pose to council or to anybody responsible is what measures will be taken to ensure that the construction employees are not driving erratically, because there is a history of employees from construction companies and subcontractors driving erratically on our street, presenting a risk to public safety. If the response to the public safety concerns are, we're simply going to put police in the neighborhood, I am one of 5 racialized residents in the neighborhood. In addition to that, I'm also a PhD candidate at the University of Waterloo who studies the intersections between race and policing. The imposition or the implementation of additional police in the neighborhood has the potential to increase the likelihood of invasive policing targeting racialized people in the community. So what is the logical safety mechanism being employed by the town to address the concern posed by the increased traffic in the area as a result of the potentially erratic driving of the construction employees and the subcontractors? Because this is an issue that's already happened in our community. This is an issue that numerous residents have already brought forward, and nothing seems to be done about it because our street hasn't formally turned into a drag strip for people racing their cars.
Carolyn, do you want to take a stab at that one?
Through the mayor, maybe first I'll answer the question about just general traffic from the development, because certainly any construction traffic is limited in time period during the construction process. So with the development itself, if we're speaking about the 3 units, so you'll see on the sketch in front of you that the proposed lot is about 1,200 square meters, which works out to just over about 400 square meters per dwelling unit that is proposed. This would be a fairly standard lot size, if not slightly larger than what we would see for a number of single family building lots that are currently being constructed. In that regard, on a municipal road that is designed to handle a certain number, what we call AADT, or annual average daily traffic flows, the introduction of lots that are similar in overall width and depth to single family homes would be well within the tolerance level of what that road would have been designed for. When we move over to construction, certainly I'm not on site every day watching how construction drivers might be operating. Certainly the municipality is the issuer of a building permit. It has certain requirements. They had hesitation with calling the police, but I would suggest the first call might be to the municipality through the building department, or certainly Mr. Feeney is a local builder, well known in the area, and I'm sure he would be happy to work through any construction concerns that residents may have during that limited time period.
But how will calling the building inspector have anything to do with reducing people racing down our street?
Through the mayor, maybe just to clarify, is the concern construction workers in their cars racing through the streets, or just general residents racing through the street?
No, the concern is from construction workers. My 10-year-old neighbor has almost been killed by a construction worker when they were servicing the lots. When they were servicing the lots at the end of the street.
So certainly through the mayor, Mr. Feeney is here this evening, and I think the best approach would to be connect through to him if there is any concerns with any staff that he might have on the site.
Just for the record, Mr. Feeney, if a child is killed as a result of the erratic driving of construction employees, will the funeral costs be covered by Feeney Design Build?
Through the mayor, I don't believe that's probably a question we should head down, but I'll certainly leave it to the mayor and council to direct that one.
No, I would agree. I think that's very appropriate. Do you have another question?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? No further comments? Just state your name so that we have a record of it.
Brad Byerman, 28 Napier Street, resident at that address since August of 2014. I'm a realist. I understand that there's probably not a whole lot we can say that's going to change. It's already basically zoned that way. My two concerns are mostly towards the exception that is being sought to be able to carry forward with this, with the provision of the lesser lot, side lot severance or rear lot, I guess as it's described. Ultimately, when we move to our residence, the development of semis behind us down Clayton Street was already zoned and everything. But I will speak that when you are increasing density of dwellings and putting neighbors closer together, it certainly can create more frustrations between neighbors than it can make them good friends. Which ultimately leads me to a question to Mr. Feeney, since you, not so much a question, a comment to Mr. Feeney, since you're planning to do this as a rental setup. You basically are proposing to put something in here that is going to leave your tenants with neighbors that are not thrilled to have them quite so close to their existing dwellings. My other comment to the situation is a question of council, and it speaks on to the last comments a bit, but a little more direct. With this added development, and at this corner specifically, this corner is currently a bus stop to at least 2, if not 3 buses that pick up kids and drop kids off there every day. And frankly, if anyone is familiar with Napier Street and the south side, south of the railway tracks, we are basically a drag strip between the railway tracks and the stop sign at Frank Street. And quite frankly, Frank Street is also a drag strip from that intersection out to Highway 23. With this added development and more density added here, and current existing bus stops and children in the area, we're growing density, we're growing neighborhoods, we're growing the number of people and the number of families that are here. Is council going to take into consideration that a 4-way stop is required there to start controlling the traffic and the speed at which it travels?
That's certainly, and I can maybe let Councillor Harold comment. He's chair of the police services, but that's certainly something that could be taken into consideration.
Yeah, we can bring it up at our next meeting with the OPP. It would definitely require some sort of a consultant to monitor the traffic flow and how it would change things. But we can certainly bring it up as a question for them for sure.
As a resident of that intersection, I highly encourage all of you. I know you're not far, but I highly encourage any of you to just sit in your car on a nice summer weekend day down the gravel portion of Clayton Street and watch what traffic does. Thanks for your time.
Your point's well taken. Anybody else wish to say anything at this time? Okay, thank you. Any questions from council with regards to this application at this time? Okay. Oh, sorry. Dean, go ahead.
Through you, your worship, the question of safety, question of safety was raised. All construction projects, based on my previous experience in the industry, are governed by the Occupational Health and Safety Act and construction regulations. So there is a safety element that the constructor, in this case, it would be presumably Mr. Feeney, who's building the project, has to follow. So that's an example where police are not involved, but safety is still administered through a different provincial body. And the consequence for not following the Occupational Health and Safety Act is severe. I won't get into those details right now, but there are regulations in place that govern how these projects are conducted on the job site. Just wanted to add that for information. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Another comment? Go ahead.
Sorry, Jennifer Petrie, Bernie's daughter, 57 Clayton Street. So my concern with the wanting to lower the density of the backyard, it's directly in my family room where these backyards will be facing. So the privacy I had previous with the last owners of the property is not going to be there. So suggested is that there's going to be planting on the lot perimeter. If this is going through, which I'm sure it is, because this is just a formality, is there a chance that a fence could be built so there's privacy rather than planting? Because this is okay. Sorry. Is there a way that there could be a fence put up rather than planting so there is some privacy? With it being rental units, and like my dad said, nothing against people that have to rent, you're not usually as concerned about your property looking nice. And we have some neighbors on Clayton that keep immaculate yards, and that probably will not happen on a rental property. So we're going to have to look at that out of the view of our properties and with our neighbor as far as safety. Where are half these vehicles going to park when there's more density in the area? We're already having issues with people parking on the road. There's no bylaw officers or OPP that ever come around in our neighborhood, and they just park wherever they want. They park the wrong way. It is a safety concern. And now that there's more, are they going to park on Napier Street? Are they going to park on Clayton when they have people over? Because usually these new homes usually only have one spot for a vehicle in their driveway. Like, it just seems we're building on top of everything, and we're not thinking about traffic flow and where people park. And most families have 2 vehicle cars, and that's where the safety concern comes in.
You raised some good points that this council has had discussions on, and that is about parking. And you're right, you know, because you say like most families have at least 2 cars. And it's not only in this situation, it's come up in several other situations where, you know, how are we going to deal with the parking? Carolyn, do you want to answer the initial question, I guess, about a fence?
Oh, there we go. Thank you, through the mayor. If I could trouble just to have the concept sketch put up, it might help with this explanation. So I just want to circle back to why there's a reduction to the rear yard, because I realized maybe I wasn't as clear when I was presenting. So when we look at the lot that has 3 units, so all of the units proposed are going to front to Napier Street. So the driveway, the garage, the front door, they'll look like a street townhouse that I'm sure you've seen elsewhere. Functionally, the rear yard is going to be the top of the screen, and I believe your property is immediately to the top of the page. So that rear yard is actually proposed at 10.66 meters, which exceeds the requirement in the zoning bylaw for any single, semi, duplex, or townhouse of 7.5 meters. So there is no reduction in terms of the required rear yard from the new buildings to your house, and in fact, it exceeds it by just under about. If you could just let me finish for a moment. So where the reduction is only on the northern property line. And Mr. Weiss had a great graphic in his presentation where, and I apologize to Hannah making her flip around with the red line. So the proposed reduction is only along the northern property line, because the way the zoning bylaw works is when you have a corner lot, The bylaw determines your shortest lost frontage as your front lot line. So I'm going to work through what that means. So that means that Clayton Street is actually considered the front lot line for zoning for this development. And the rear yard is always immediately opposite the front. So Clayton becomes your front yard. And the northern property line where you see the red, which is what abuts the existing house to the north, is the only spot in which a reduction is required or requested through this application. It does comply with all other setbacks. So what it does is it reduces the setback between a sidewall of one unit and the existing dwelling to the north. That is the only area on this development that would have a reduction. But when it comes in terms of your property, it actually exceeds the requirements.
Sorry, then what's at the back of the property of the new build? How many feet from that property to our property is there?
Through the mayor, so that's 10.66 and 3.3 feet in a meter. So 35, 30, please don't quote me quite on 35 or 36, but something in that range feet. And then that's only to the property line. Then you have your setback from your property line to your house
Right.
on top of that.
So again, is there a possibility of you putting a fence on that property line?
Through the mayor, I believe the proposal at this time is to have landscaping.
Okay, any other general comments before we wrap this up? Taking this all in, are you, Kim? Okay, I would like to thank those in attendance for their comments tonight. Should council proceed with the adoption of a zoning bylaw amendment, the notice of passing will be provided as prescribed by the Planning Act and a 20-day appeal period to the Ontario Land Tribunal. We will now close this public meeting at 7:48 p.m. And we'll go into our open, we got a recommendation. Yes, we do have a recommendation here. The recommendation, we're out into our open session now. The recommendation is that the Council Municipality of West Perth receive the report titled Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 02-2023 and hold, we've already held the meeting, so we just receive it for information, right? Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Jankowski and Councillor Rose. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a couple drainage reports. So I'm going to ask Bill Dietrich to come up. And the first one is the Consett Municipal Drain.
Mayor McKenzie,
Yes, sorry.
would it be okay to mention when we're going to deal with that bylaw?
It will be later on this evening. No, not tonight. Won't be tonight.
Answered. So the input that was received tonight, the planners will be writing a report and coming back to a future council meeting. Will either be April the 17th or May the whatever the first meeting in May would be, but I'm not certain if you plan to come back on April 17th, John.
Through you, Mayor McKenzie. The bottom of the report, I had mentioned that we would be coming back with the zoning bylaw amendment bylaw or recommendation after the consents have gone through or not gone through.
Yeah, so it has to go to land division first.
Yes,
then
so
that-
the land
that
division
will-
committee meeting is scheduled for April 24th.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, Bill, first item here then is the Consett Municipal Drain.
Okay, thanks very much, Mayor McKenzie, members of council, and landowners assessed on the Consett Municipal Drain. The purpose of this meeting this evening is to, I'm going to make a brief presentation, and it's regarding the work that's being proposed for this new drainage system. And there'll be another meeting after this, and we'll go through that as far as when that'll take place regarding any questions or appeals on distribution or assessment of cost. We have up on the screens here, you'll see we have a plan. This was attached to the back of our report. And the plan basically shows the location of the proposed drainage system and the area that is being assessed for the project. This was this new municipal tile drainage system was initiated under Section 4 of the Drainage Act. And we, after our appointment, we held an on-site meeting. And just recently, at the end of February and February the 27th, we held an information meeting to present to all the affected landowners our plans for this project. In that meeting, we outlined the estimated cost for the project, and we also had some preliminary numbers handed out for assessment of costs. So I'm not going to go into those details at this point in time. You'll see the watershed area that's being assessed here is the blue highlighted line around the outside of the plan, and all the lands and part of line 2021 is within the catchment area for this proposed drainage system. The outlet for this tile drain is the Hogarth Municipal Drain in lot 27 of concession 11. And the upper end of this tile drain will be at the boundary between the Concept property and trying to see at the top end there. Well, it's right on lot. It will be right between lots 26 and 27 of concession 10. And so you'll see the yellow line on the plan shows the location of where the new tile system is going to be installed. Downstream of line 21, a new 600 millimeter, 24-inch diameter pipe system will be installed. There'll be a new road crossing installed under line 21 by we're proposing by the boring method. It'll be a 600 millimeter outside diameter steel casing. And there'll be catch basins, which are precast concrete catch basins with surface inlets installed on both sides of the road. And then upstream of the road, the drain continues on as a 450 millimeter tile. And the very upper end of the drain is a 250 millimeter tile. This drainage system was designed using a 1.5-inch drainage coefficient, which means removal of a 1.5 inch of rainfall over a 24-hour period, which is the maximum standard being used today for designing municipal drains. That's allowed by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food for grant purposes. We've estimated the total cost of this project at $253,400. The costs are broken down in the drainage report. I won't go through all that, and there is an assessment of costs. So maybe at this point in time, I'll turn it back to the to council or any landowners that are if you have any questions regarding the work that's being planned here.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I know we have a couple landowners here. Is there any questions from any of the landowners with regards to this particular drain? Don't see anybody waving their arms or their fists, so I think we got somebody over here. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah, come on up to the mic so we can hear you.
Hi, my name's Dave Kinsman. I asked Bill there the last time if because the floodplain, I think, if you look at it, I think the land falls the other way, and I just had a concern of which way it was going, because I already got a municipal and going down that way. And if it does happen to go your way, and I happen to drain that land, do I have to go your way or the natural way?
Well, we did check that question came up at the last public meeting. So we did, we actually went in the field and actually checked the watershed boundary again. We also checked against all previous drainage reports, surveys that have been done on your farm. And the area, that farm is divided into 3 different watersheds. You see that on the south easterly side of your farm drains directly into what's called a branch of the Hogarth drain. And the area that's shown on our plan here is I think it's approximately 25 acres is assessed to our drain. If you add up all the different watersheds, they all equal the area that you've been assessed. So you haven't been assessed for any land that shouldn't be assessed, and it we double checked it. It appears it's divided up properly. So,
The second question is, I forgot. Where are we?
Yeah, this is your property here.
We're right there by the house there.
Mhm.
How many acres did you say was gonna be drained into this drain here?
Into the Hogarth drain,
Yeah.
I believe it's the same area as, or very similar. I haven't got that report with me. But I believe it's the same or very similar to the area that we're assessing into the Consett drain. So whatever, I don't know. You're assessed for 10.1 hectares. And that is, probably about, I think it's quite similar, but I can look it up. Which is 10 hectares is. Yeah, 25 acres. So, and I believe that area that you're referring to here on the southeast corner of your farm, I think it's very similar to that. I can get that information for you.
If you wouldn't mind that.
Yep, I'll make sure that, and I can show you how the watersheds have been established over the years, and but I can get that information for you.
Good question. I don't know, might not have any information here, but on that outlet on the side road.
Mhm.
How big that is.
I can look that up too. I can get that information for you. You're talking about the upper end of the, is that branch C of the Hogarth drain? Okay.
Just before.
Yep. I can look up the size of that top. I've got your phone number from the previous number, so I can give you a call on that one. Okay.
Okay, anybody else with any questions with regards to construction of this drain? Come ahead.
Mark Lynn, just one of the properties being filed. Just wondering about a time. Is there a timeline for this?
There is. We got to follow all the steps under the Drainage Act. After tonight's meeting, if council accepts this report, they'll be giving it passing what's called a provisional bylaw. They'll be giving first and second reading, and then the next step after that is to call for tenders on the project, and we have to hold one more meeting with council to deal with if there's any appeals on assessment. So yeah, we'll probably we've got another project here that we're presenting this evening as well. We'll probably call for tenders on both of them at the same time. So probably within the next month or so, this will go out for tender. We'll be asking the contractors that bid on this work to give the municipality a starting and a completion date. So
Yes, I guess was there a date? Or is that just kind of?
Yes, we have a date when we're going to have our next meeting for consideration or quarter revision, and we'll have the tenders at that meeting, and that is going to be May 1st.
Okay, I didn't know that date had been set yet. Okay, May the 1st.
Okay, any further questions with regards to the construction of this concentrate? Okay, motion here then that we accept the report from Dietrich Engineering Limited dated March the 7th for the Consett Municipal Drain. Moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Okay, the next item on our agenda then is the Reynolds drain. And Bill, I'll turn the floor over to you and you can tell us all the good news about that report.
Okay, again, thanks very much, Mayor McKenzie, members of council, and ratepayers on the Reynolds Municipal Drain. This is maybe I'll backtrack a bit there too. I forgot to.
Oh, yes, I have a note here too.
Yeah, we both forgot. We both forgot. One of the on all new drainage projects where they're petitioned under Section 4 of the Act, council is supposed to ask the landowners on the drain if there's anyone who wants to add their name to the petition or take their name off the petition. That is a requirement at the consideration of the report. So maybe we should do that before I continue on with the next project here.
Yes.
And we'll likewise, the Reynolds drain is a new drain as well.
Okay, is there anybody here that has water going into the constant drain that would either like to remove their name, or do we have anybody else volunteering to add their name to help pay for it down the road? Okay, I don't see any hands going up. So, okay, Bill, thanks a lot.
Okay. The Reynolds drain. This, again, this project was initiated under Section 4. Our firm was appointed. I believe there was 4 different properties that were that petitioned for this project. The Reynolds property, Lelis, and Pridham. Maybe it was only 3. I guess there's 3 farms. And those properties are shown on the plan. The after petition was accepted and received by council, we held and we were appointed. We held an on-site meeting out on at the site, and we surveyed the proposed drain. And after that meeting, we held an information meeting here back in February to discuss our plans. So the proposal in this report, you'll see there, the location of the drain is the yellow line that's shown on the plan. The outlet for this new tile drainage system is the south branch of the Parsons drain, which is an open ditch. And it's on the Trevor Pridham property. We're also proposing to clean out the ditch on that property for the length of the open ditch that's on the Pridham property is about 263 meters of open channel will be cleaned out as part of this project. A new outlet structure will be put in at the upper end of the open ditch, and we're going to be proposing a new tile system. At the lower end of the drain, it'll be a 525 millimeter tile, which is 21 inch, which you can see on the plan. There'll be a catch basin put on the installed in line on the property line between the Pridham and the Lelis property. The drain continues through the Lelis property over to, and the upper end of it is on the easterly side of Highway 23. Will be what's going to be required is a new crossing under the highway. It's also proposed to be installed by the trenchless method. We'll be proposing to jack and bore a 500 millimeter diameter casing under the highway with catch basins on both sides of the road. The lands upstream of that are shown on the plan that are assessed for outlet into this drainage system. We've estimated the cost of this project at $212,000. This includes the allowances, the construction costs, and the administration costs. So maybe at this point in time, if there's any questions regarding the work being planned here from the landowners that are assessed and in council, I'll be pleased to answer those.
Okay, is there any questions from any of the landowners or members of council as far as that goes? No, I don't. I think you've done a good job explaining it. No questions from council. Again, if there's any landowners here that wish to remove their name from the petition, or if there's anybody that wishes to add their name to this petition, now is probably the time to indicate that. And I don't see anybody jumping up and running to the front, so I think it's the way it is. Okay. So if there's no further questions with regards to the Reynolds drain, we have a recommendation here, and it is that the Council Municipality of West Perth accept the report from the Dietrich Engineering Limited dated March the 6th for the Reynolds Municipal Drain 2023. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Phelps and Councillor Duck. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. And again, we will have the quarter revision on that drain on May the 1st, and we hope to have tenders at that meeting as well.
Thank you very much. We'll prepare the tender documents and have them circulated.
Thanks.
Good evening. Thanks.
Yes. Okay, moving on. We have a few delegations here tonight. The next is a delegation for Perth County Economic Development and Tourism and Transportation update. So Meredith, I'm going to let you take the floor. Actually, bring all the girls up here. And Justin, sorry. Yes, and Justin.
It's a team
So
effort.
this is, I believe, the first time that you've been here to our council, is it not?
It is for 2023.
So I think what we'll do, I'll let you introduce your crew and then we'll just go around the table and we can introduce us to you. How's that?
Wonderful. So as Mayor Mackenzie said, I'm Meredith Burgett and I am your Manager of Economic Development and Tourism. With me today, I have Maggie Kerr, our Transit Coordinator for the county. She runs the PC Connect program. I have Ashley Lansing, she's our Tourism Officer, and Justin Diaz, our Economic Development Officer.
Oh, and we'll start with Phil.
Philip O'Donnell, Mitchell Ward.
Diane Chessel, Logan Ward.
And I'm Nicholas Vink from Hibbert.
Steve Harold from Fullerton Ward.
Doug Phelps, Mitchell Ward.
Walter McKenzie, the mayor.
Dean Trentowski, Deputy Mayor.
Ryan Duck, Logan Ward.
Alex Foster, Fullerton Ward.
Murray Rose, Mitchell Ward.
And Andrew, I know you're listening. Do you want to introduce yourself or do you want me to introduce you?
Hello, I'm here too. Andrew Fournier, Councillor for Hibbert Ward.
Thank you, Andrew.
Excellent, thank you. We did have a video we were going to show tonight, but just due to time, I think we'll skip it. If you do get a chance, it is a great video that was produced in 2019 by the International Economic Development Commission, and it just really highlights and encompasses all of the activities that are involved in economic development. So I believe that was part of your package that you could watch at your leisure. I'll save that 3 minutes. So tonight I get to talk about what we did in 2022. Normally we would have been here at the beginning of the year, but we had some scheduling conflicts. So I get to tell you about all the great things that we did in 2022. So we developed, printed, and distributed 110,000 Discover More tourism brochures and 30,000 Discover More flavor farm gate maps across the province of Ontario. We developed 8 new signature experiences through our award-winning Discover More Adventures experiential tourism program. Businesses such as TLC Alpaca and Windbreak Farm Woodworks were businesses from West Perth that participated in that program. We hosted 5 media trips with creators and influencers. We hosted a Yes in My Backyard YIMBY session with 41 passionate community members right here at the Mitchell Golf Course. We provided 15 local tourism businesses with professional photography packages through our Snapshot program. Developed 3 newsletters and 6 e-blasts. Delivered a business resource mail out through Canada Post postal code mail out to all Perth County businesses. We hosted a succession planning webinar, continued to offer welcoming communities training through our partnership with Fanshawe College, conducted over 94 business consultations, delivering various digital service squad services such as Google My Business and 360-degree photos, developed a PC Connect for Employers campaign, which included a toolkit to promote PC Connect and reduce barriers for both employees and employers. We also did this in partnership with our social services with the City of Stratford. We sold over 1,600 prepaid bus passes to local organizations such as social services and employment service operators. We designed and executed multiple media campaigns promoting PC Connect transit system to locals and surrounding areas. And we launched the PC Connect for Google Maps. I'm going to pass the mic over to Justin, and he's going to tell you what we have planned for 2023.
Thank you, Meredith, and through the mayor. So I get to talk about some of the next slide, please. The 2023 plans for the economic development part of our division. So in addition to an economic development tourism strategy, our 2023 economic development projects feature return to more traditional business retention and expansion activities that had occurred prior to the pandemic. So BR&E during the COVID period obviously took a bit of a different shape as we weren't able to do business tours. Our surveys were COVID focused and much of our BR&E efforts were focused on retention of businesses as we tried to support them through the pandemic by offering digital assistance, COVID adaptation kits, and helping them access COVID support funding. So 2023 we'll see a restart of some of the and a revamp of some of our traditional BR&E activities through a full suite of related projects. So those include a full business retention expansion survey, both a digital and mail out that will go to all businesses across Perth County, business familiarization tours. Happy to have Black Donnelly Brewery as our first West Perth stop. So more details to come on a date for that. and business profiles. Our plan is to capstone our 2023 VRNE project with and bring our diverse business community together for a community-wide business-to-business networking session to really help revamp and revive our business community after many years of lost networking opportunities that occurred during the pandemic. 2023 will also see a continuation of our DSS Digital Service Squad programming. So our DSS team of Ricky and Eileen continue to find innovative ways to reach new businesses. So our team has had tremendous success with a large number of repeat clients. In 2023, we'll see our digital drop-ins and other ways that we're going to try to reach some of the new clients within West Perth and beyond. Partnerships with the VIAs will be something we need to focus on. And with the support of the VIAs, again, help to try to get digital to all of our West Perth and Perth County businesses, as we know that customer expectations, purchasing habits and that have changed from the pandemic, and we want to really make sure that our businesses are adapting to those new customer needs. And especially during this time, we want to continue to support any business looking to access digital transformation grants. These are $2,500 grants available in Digital Main Street to help businesses develop and execute a digital transformation plan. And we want to make sure that West Perth businesses are taking advantage of this opportunity while it's available. So please do send any businesses that you know who have an interest in going digital, supporting the digital transformation, to please get a hold of our team. And then finally, I'll just speak about a few of the workforce initiatives for 2023. They'll see the launch of our Workforce Attraction, Retention, and Employment Toolkit portal to help businesses struggling with persistent workforce challenges. So developed in partnership with Invest Stratford, this collection of free resources will help local employers with tools, templates, best practices, policies, and checklists to really guide them through some of the best and innovative practices to help them attract and retain workers, which we know is an ongoing challenge for our region and beyond. We hope this resource will help to alleviate some of our local workforce challenges. And this will obviously continue to be combined with more youth profiling and enhanced, as well as some enhanced funding that was recently announced to support the summer company program with Perth County and Perth CFTC, which will allow young people across Perth County to find career paths here, as well as opportunities to start a business right here in Perth County. So that's it for economic development, and I'll pass things over to Ashley.
Hi, everyone. So Perth County Tourism is the official DMO for Perth County, which stands for Destination Marketing Organization. So as the DMO, Perth County Tourism efforts work to grow brand awareness, increase tourism across the county, enhance visitor experience, and support our local operators. In 2023, we'll be launching new and exciting programming and continuing to market our rural region as a top tourism destination in Ontario. In your report today, you have a high-level list of projects planned throughout 2023. And today, I'm going to take a moment to just touch on a few projects that are already underway earlier this year, and you'll be finding more about very soon. So first, we have been working to expand our marketing and advertising target market for tourism attraction beyond those neighboring regions and into further areas, including the GTA. To the left of the screen here, you will see a creative for our 2023 ads. This year, the imagery and wording in our ads is very visual and experiential to make the print ads a little bit more evocative. Taste farm to table, wake up in a yurt, picnic with goats, pick your own berries, explore a beehive, walk an alpaca. These are all things that you can do right here in Perth County, and the hope is that ads like this will engage viewers to find their next adventure right here in Perth County. A few places you'll find ads similar to this one include the Stratford Festival Visitor Guide, which is circulated to over 700,000 visitors to Perth County each year, and the Summer Fun Guide, which is circulated to over 250,000 people who visit 401 on routes. Next, this year, our Discover More Tourism brochures have gotten a major facelift. The new and modernized design better matches our now well-established branding and actively engage the reader. The new and improved travel guide is less of a directory this year and more of a collection of itineraries, travel inspiration, and storytelling. And as such, it has grown from 26 pages to 34 pages this year. The new brochure is going to print by the end of this week, and will be launching during Tourism Week at the end of April. So watch your mailboxes and local businesses and the office to see the new brochure around. Next, with the completion of the Perth County Cycle Tourism Strategy in 2022, we're now in the implementation stages. Working in partnership with Destination Stratford and the town of St. Mary's, we have produced a new and improved cycle map featuring 9 signature routes across Perth County. The routes in this map are recommended by experts, and it also includes trail information, cycle safety, and more. These maps will direct users to our cycle webpage, where Ride with GPS maps, information on local cycle events, and more will be stored, and we're going to be updating that on an ongoing basis. This map is a stepping stone marketing piece as we continue to put intention into growing cycle tourism in Perth County. A few examples of this you'll see coming up this year are supporting 2 cycle events happening in the county, as well as some enhancements to the Perth Harvest Pathway, which is our section of the G2G Rail Trail. The new map has been sent to the printer and will be launching during Perth County's main cycle season. So that's another thing to watch for soon. And lastly, for me today, for those of you who follow Perth County tourism on social media, I hope you've noticed a bit of a change in the last year. We've raised the bar on the quality and style of content we're posting on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. And our analytics have shown this has been to our benefit, with increased stats in users engaging with, following, and sharing our content. So if we want to play one example of the video there, the road one there. So that's just one little fun example of the kind of reels that we post in our Instagram story. And I'm hoping it entices you to get on your social media accounts if you have them and follow us on Perth County Tourism, so you can stay up to date on what we're up to and all the great things there is to see and do in Perth County. And with that, I will pass it over to Maggie to talk about PC Connect.
Awesome, thank you, Ashley. Bring this up a little bit, that's okay. So through your worship, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having us tonight. As Meredith mentioned, we have had a very successful year with PC Connect. We're able to execute a bunch of new programming and marketing and outreach efforts. But most importantly, in 2022, we were able to offer over 14,000 rides to residents who, before PC Connect, may not have had a method of transportation. So these residents were able to have an affordable method of transportation to get to work, healthcare and appointments, connect with family and friends, and maintain an independent and active lifestyle. So in order to continue growing the PC Connect service, marketing and community and employer outreach will continue to be a top priority for us in 2023. Our first promotional event of the year, which you may have heard about, was Free Ride Week, which took place this past March break last month. So from March 13th to 18th, the PC Connect service was offered for free of cost to promote both PC Connect ridership and our local businesses throughout March break. So through extensive marketing efforts, including paid and organic social media ads, which briefly played on the screen there for us, and newspaper, print ads, billboards, and radio interviews, residents were encouraged to fill their week with day trips across Perth County without having to worry about the cost of getting there. So our promotion proved to be a great success, which provided a total of 510 rides throughout the week, which is over 2 times our average weekly ridership in February. Notably, Route B, which has a stop here at the Metro Arena, alone had 4 times its average ridership, and Route A saw a 76% increase in ridership throughout the week. And Route A also offers a stop here at the Metro Arena. We're certainly looking forward to continuing with this momentum of ridership growth through sustained marketing efforts, promotions, and service enhancements. Another marketing initiative that we are currently working on is called the People of PC Connect, which really works to humanize the PC Connect service by telling stories of our PC Connect riders and really displaying how impactful the service has been on their lives. So the goal of the campaign is to not only resonate with and inspire other members of the public to ride the service, but also demonstrate how life-changing PC Connect has been and continues to be in our rural communities. We'll also be leveraging these new humanized media assets to update our marketing material, compile new informational packages, and revisit organizations, employers, social services, and our community partners throughout the county. In addition to growing the PC Connect service through our employer and community outreach efforts, a key initiative for 2023 is to renew all service agreements to align with the funding extension that was provided by the MTO, which is March of 2025. So prior to doing so, we are working to reevaluate our current service offerings, and we're investigating the potential and the viability of offering an on-demand service in place of our underperforming Route B. And finally, a key piece of their puzzle in 2023 is advocacy. So continuously reaching out and advocating to the province of Ontario for additional and continued financial support to offer this much needed service in our rural communities. And that is all from my PC Connect update, and I'll pass it back to Meredith to close us off.
Hannah, can you do the next slide? Thank you. So in closing, Perth County Economic Development, Tourism and Transportation falls under our 5 strategic goals of the County of Perth. We encourage positive growth, provide flexible and affordable transportation. All economic development, tourism, and transportation programming is done on a regional basis for our 4-member municipalities. Projects such as our Discover More Adventures program, our Business Retention and Expansion program, and our Discover More Flavor Farm Gate program. We consistently drive service excellence to all visitors, residents, and businesses, and we promote Perth County as an attractive destination for all. Hopefully we didn't take up too much time, but we are here to answer any questions. Did you have any?
Okay, thanks, Meredith. Any questions around the table? Nicholas, go ahead.
In 2023, what role does economic development have for marketing lower tier industrial lands, as an example?
Thank you. Excellent question. So we work quite closely with your CAO, Brick, and we will be promoting, and we already have been promoting, the Heron Business Park, and working quite closely with the real estate firm that's dealing with the Continental Tire building. So it is very active in our portfolio to promote all of our industrial space across the county.
Would you have a couple examples of what you're working on or how you're doing it?
Yes, how we are doing it is we are part of the Southern Ontario Marketing Alliance, and that is 6 municipalities across Southwestern Ontario that we do all of our foreign direct investment with. So by us partnering with St. Thomas, Ingersoll, City of Stratford, Woodstock, Hilsenburg, I think that's 6. We are able to leverage provincial and federal dollars for programming and promotion of all of our properties. And we are able to pool our resources to attend more trade shows, specifically for automotive and food processing. With that, with having those partners at the table, we have a much larger reach.
Other questions? Andrew, do you have any questions?
No, actually, I don't at the moment. Thank you.
I would, if you allow me another one.
Yep. Sure.
So the plan or Route B on demand plan, would that be only along the current route, or would that expand out to reach into the communities past the existing route?
Sure. So through your worship, our on-demand simulations are still all under investigation to determine the viability. Right now, our current plan that we are investigating is simply transitioning the Route A parameters that are currently being serviced, which does include Mitchell. So it would just be our service zone that we are, again, investigating to start with, would be the existing Route B communities that are being serviced. And the way that would work is that all through the technology of the app, it would suggest the most appropriate trip for you. So if you're in Mitchell and you're requesting a trip, depending on the time you request it with, it'll either suggest an on-demand ride for you, or it'll suggest the fixed route that will be still serviced by Route A. If that answers your question. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Jankowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Maggie, could you maybe shed some light or some details on, I call it the pop-up stop idea for the PC Connect? Animes was an example on your, in your literature. Could you maybe provide some more detail on that concept, please?
Sure, through your worship. We do our best to highlight all the different routes along our PC Connect service. So we do have a stop at Anime, so we try to feature that and provide examples on different ideas of how you can use the service. So you can go to Anime to grab coffee or meet up with your friends and seniors, go for breakfast on a annual day. So we're just trying to provide examples on how you can use the service other than to reach your basic needs. So that's an example of Animes. We have just added a stop at Country Sisters as well along Route 1. And the idea of that is just to expand our accessibility of the service and provide more options and reach our Mennonite community as well. I'm not sure if that answered your question. I'm not quite sure what the pop-up.
That's fine. I was maybe getting the locations mixed up, but it was kind of like a twist on the usual, just something other than just the usual route for basic needs.
Okay, yes. And as well, we did just have a stop at the Elmira Maple Syrup Festival, sorry. And we did relocate that stop to be a bit more convenient for both the visitors and the bus to navigate there. So we did some promotions around that as an idea of, you know what, forget about the parking and the nightmare with all the cars down there, just hop on PC Connect. It's affordable, it's convenient, and try something new. So definitely working on some creative marketing approaches, again, to provide some different ideas and really emphasize the fact that it's not just for those who need it, but it can also be a choice, and it can be a choice of convenience. So working on that heavily in 2023.
Okay. Anybody else? Very good. Well, thank you, Meredith and crew. Appreciate you coming this evening and having the update. Sorry I had to wait maybe a little longer than what we had anticipated, but that's the way things go some nights, so no problem. Good. Very good. Maggie, you don't want to put a pitch in for your brother-in-law when you're here, do you?
Go Corey, we're very proud. I'm actually on my way tomorrow to go meet up with them. So
Good.
it's an exciting time and appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you did well.
You
Yeah.
did do well. Yeah, very proud of him.
Yes, good, good. Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, the next delegation we have is from the city of Stratford. It's the Social Services Department, the Housing, Homelessness, Planning and Programs. So Kim McElroy is here with her crew. And I will let you introduce your people here, Kim. And you were around when we went around the table, so I don't think we need to do that again. But if you want to introduce your group, that's fine.
Wonderful. Thank you for having us. We're really happy to be here tonight. It's been a while, and so I want to thank you for having us. I'm Kim McElroy. I'm the Director of Social Services for the City of Stratford, Town of St. Mary's, and Perth County. And I just want to, while I'm here, because I don't get out here too often, I want to thank Daniel Hobson for his work on community safety and well-being. He's a valued colleague of ours, and Jeff Brick as a valued CAO. So it's always great working with them. Tonight, with my members of my team include John Ritz, my homelessness supervisor, Kelly Stone, my housing supervisor, and Jeff Wilson, the housing manager. I'm going to start the presentation and then I will hand it off to them. I'm just going to see if I can get this to work here. There. So yes, I'll give a little background and give some context prior to giving the rest of the presentation off to the manager of housing. So to start with, when we're talking about housing and homelessness, we have a housing spectrum. And as you can see, the City of Stratford Social Services, we touch on everything from homelessness to non-market housing right up to market housing. And this is the spectrum. And it is not necessarily linear. individuals can go back and forth through different elements of the spectrum, but we work with unsheltered right through to home ownership. This was adopted from the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs. So this is where we take a lot of our information from. I want to start with this before we get into the presentation, because there's been a lot of discussion on clarification of terms, especially when it comes to affordable housing. So I'm going to give our definitions of what we'll be using for this, so that you have the context as we move into this presentation. So attainable housing is really the entire breadth of housing. Okay, it includes and in I want to say 2021, we adopted the definition that attainable housing is one that's affordable to the income level of the household, available at the time, appropriate to the circumstances of the individual or family, and achievable or actionable. Affordable housing, that's the one that I'm hearing a lot of back and forth with, but for the purpose of this this presentation, it is a form of attainable housing, and it's rental units constructed since 2002, in which rents are maintained at or below 80% of average market rent for at least 20 years, and built in both community housing and private market housing. The CMHC version that a lot of people hear as well is not the one we use, and it's not to be confused with that. And that's generally the 30% of the total income. So for our means and social services, and for this presentation, affordable housing is the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing definition. And finally, the third term is community housing. And again, we used to be known as social housing or public housing, and it is owned and operated by nonprofit housing corporations, housing cooperatives, municipal governments, and district social services administration boards. And it offers rent geared to income and moderate market rents for eligible households. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot. The role of the Social Services Department. We are the Consolidated Municipal Service Manager, otherwise known as the CMSM, or Service Manager. We have a provincial designation. We are one of 47 service managers in Ontario. We administer, myself, the social services to residents in Stratford, Perth County, and St. Mary's, and that includes 4 divisions: the Housing Division, the Ontario Works Division, the Children's Services Division, and Anne Hathaway Daycare Center. The homelessness response bridges both the Housing and Ontario Works Division.
Thank you. Through your worship. So as service manager, we oversee the Housing Access Center, which manages a centralized waiting list for rent geared to income housing and includes determining eligibility and processing applications. We also provide oversight and support to community housing providers for 323 units, which includes both RGI and market rent units. We administer rent support programs, including rent supplements, housing allowances, and other housing benefits. And we also administer federal and provincial affordable housing programs, such as the Social Infrastructure Fund, the Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative, and investments in affordable housing. And as the landlord, the Perth and Stratford Housing Corporation owns and operates 663 units in Stratford, St. Mary's, Listowel, Atwood, Mitchell, and Milverton.
Thank you, Kelly. So our homelessness response. Our initial intervention is offering short-term emergency accommodations for individuals and households experiencing homelessness through local motels, allowing individuals to be temporarily sheltered while they work with members of the City of Stratford outreach team to get connected to services, community partners while they work to end their homelessness. We also offer additional supports in homelessness prevention by providing funds to assist with moving costs, last month rent deposits, rent and utility arrears, as well as system navigation to external agencies where appropriate. We work to assist households experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness with focus on housing-based supports. Examples of these might be life skills education, mediation with landlords, and outreach response to reported encampments to determine next steps of support in partnership with the Connection Center Street outreach team, as well as the community developer positions. In addition to this, We also provide intensive case management to high acuity individuals and households, both who are experiencing homelessness and housed, focusing supports on maintaining and obtaining housing. These supports are provided by the City of Stratford Intensive Housing and Community Outreach Coordinator, as well as the Supported Housing of Perth program. Settings for clients requiring support may include the community, Perth and Stratford Housing Corporation, supported housing, as well as privately rented units. To report an encampment, we ask that you contact our offices and call extension 200 to speak to a member of our outreach team. This will deploy our internal response to an active encampment, and additional information will be requested at that time. Finally, our coordinated access system for homelessness response. So coordinated access is a standardized system-wide approach designed to match individuals experiencing or at imminent risk of homelessness with programs and services that will best be suited to serve their needs and ensure their long-term housing stability. With this, we've established a quality by name list, which gives a live snapshot of everyone experiencing homelessness within Stratford, St. Mary's, and the County of Perth, as well as identifies their level of acuity. The goal with, just almost done. Sorry. The goal with this is to develop a system that provides support to individuals experiencing homelessness based on their level of need.
We can just look, yeah. So if we look at the service manager area population, according to the 2021 census, since the previous census, which I believe was done in 2016, West Perth has seen a 2% population growth, which is reflective of roughly 9,000 individuals in the area. And again, Stats Canada 2021 census also showed us that the median total household income in West Perth was 92,000 compared to 84,000 in the service manager area and 91,000 in Ontario. And the proportion of persons living in low income based on the low income measure in West Perth was 9.1% in 2021, which is an increase from 2016 as the data then showed this percentage to be at 8.9.
Thanks, Kelly. So just to look at a little bit more census data and demographic data, when looking at the dwellings by structural type in West Perth, we can see that by and large, it's mostly detached homes with 87.6%, and the composition of homes are mostly 1 and 2 person houses. And again, looking at owners versus renters in the area, we can see that West Perth is broadly in line with our neighboring communities with 79% ownership and 21.3 renters. So just taking a look at our centralized wait list for social housing in the community. So as of December 31st, 2022, there were 505 applicants on our centralized waiting list. To take that to a little bit more, I guess you can see most of the demand is for 1 bedrooms at 328. And to look at a little bit more specific to West Perth, we see typically our wait list for a 1 bedroom apartment in West Perth is between 50 and 60 people. And for a house, it's between 30 and 40 people, which tends to be a fairly long wait.
Thank you, Jeff. So here are some of the results from our homelessness enumeration completed in 2021. So as you can see here, as of December 31st, 2022, we had 129 households that were experiencing homelessness within the service manager area. Of those, 52% had identified as male, with 39% identifying as female, 5% either provided no response or were non-conforming. As you can also see from this slide, 70% of the individuals identified as high, or were identified as high acuity. With this, we are looking to connect individuals with the supports that match their level of need. While 28% of respondents were determined to be moderate acuity and 2% to be of low acuity. Now, 93% of individuals were experiencing chronic homelessness, meaning their length of homelessness exceeded 6 months, highlighting a need to focus on rapid rehousing of individuals with supports attached.
while 16% identified as First Nation, Inuit, Métis, or having Indigenous ancestry. So for our 10-year housing and homelessness plan, yes, sorry. Our number one strategic objective is ending homelessness. With this, we are shifting resources and service provision from managing to ending homelessness, with a focus on chronic homelessness. In 2018, we launched our Housing First program, the Supported Housing of Perth program, or SHOP, which focused on supporting high acuity individuals with intensive supports to assist in obtaining as well as maintaining their housing. We expanded the social services outreach worker program and established the new position of intensive housing and community outreach coordinator. We also introduced the use of a community-wide screening tool for determining the level of acuity for appropriate housing supports. This is the VI SPDAT, or the Vulnerability Index Service Prioritization Decision Assistance Tool, if you're interested. So on this side, you'll see some of the recommended activities to achieve between 2020 and 2024. With this, we have implemented a coordinated access system for homelessness services and established access points across our service area for individuals to get connected. We have strengthened our eviction prevention programs to clients supported both in the private market as well as in our Perth and Stratford housing buildings by expanding our outreach and intensive outreach positions, as well as rethinking some of our strategies and responses to individuals facing eviction. This month, we will be launching HIPAS 4 to improve data management and community planning before expanding its use to community partners. We've adopted emergency housing accommodations to be housing focused and expanded our services and expanded the available services we offer. We also expanded services to assist our outreach teams across our service area through the implementation of additional community developer programs in St. Mary's and Listowel so far, while still serving all of the communities within our service area.
Thank you, John. So our second strategic objective is looking at attainable housing. And one thing that I wanted to highlight from this slide is our data collection and data gathering that we do. So every year we do landlord surveys and rental market scans to get a better understanding of actual rents across our community. And this allows us to put a business case forward to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And when it's approved, it allows us to offer deeper housing subsidies to those that we work with. So looking at the second part, I wanted to highlight how we work with our municipal partners, our partners with the province, and then our federal funders, like the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation, to leverage potential funding opportunities to bring to our community. And that we also are working with private landlords to increase the potential private market housing options. And lastly, well, not quite lastly, but I also wanted to, I have one more. I also wanted to speak to some of the construction that we've done. So this is working with funding from our provincial partners, and typically, though not exclusively, working with private landlords. So since 2015, we've seen the creation of 58 affordable units. We've supported 49 households through the Affordable Home Ownership Program and introduced 76 new rent supports from different funding streams. And also just to speak to our Britannia Street affordable housing project. So this is a new build in affordable housing build in Stratford, not exclusive to Stratford residents, but intended to serve the whole community and to provide affordable housing options. So with it, rent is set at 80% of our local average market rent, which looks at about $1,002 plus hydro for a 1-bedroom and $1,190 for a 2-bedroom. So the intention is to provide affordable housing for those who might get. there's two phases to this project. One was finished in 2019, which had 35 units, and another one will be completed in the coming months and have an additional 27.
When we look at strategic objective number 3, sustaining community housing, that means ensuring that existing community housing stock is well maintained and continues to play a key role in the delivery of permanent rent geared to income housing locally. So during the last review period, we completed operational reviews of all local nonprofit and co-op housing providers to gain a better understanding of how to support their sustainability. We've leveraged over $1.2 million in funding to make improvements at community housing properties. And we've leveraged over $200,000 in funding to provide transitional funding to community housing providers reaching end of operating agreements. Recommended activities for this objective from 2020 to 2024 are to negotiate the end of operating agreements with local nonprofit and co-ops, to update service manager directives to reflect new legislative changes, support community education and advocacy efforts regarding community housing sectors, leverage funding sources at all levels for capital repair and stock regeneration, and build capacity in sector to enhance providers' ability to operate efficiently and effectively. And strategic objective number 4 looks at addressing a diversity of needs. So providing a broad range of services and supports that reflect the unique local landscape in an inclusive and culturally appropriate way, including advancing truth and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. And this involves implementing activities to inventory existing supporting housing and/or housing-based supports, strengthen partnerships with organizations across sectors to address the housing needs of specialized population groups, improve access to services for residents in rural parts of the service manager area, conduct mapping exercises to understand and improve upon service users' experience of navigating systems, and build local capacity to strengthen relationships and provide supports to Indigenous communities and peoples.
Thank you. So to close out, we learned from the pandemic that we cannot do this alone. We need our community partners and our community collaboration. Hence, the community safety and well-being plan taking a huge role at, with social services. Some of the things that we have looked at and who we've collaborated are not limited to the connection centers being implemented, the community developer roles, but we also have turned to the Ministry of Health, in which we now work with a nurse practitioner, a pharmacist on outreach in the community housing buildings, as well those that are living rough or are precariously housed. And we also have just entered into a partnership with community paramedicine, where they will be going out with our outreach workers to work with individuals who, again, are homeless, need housing stability, or are in our community housing buildings. So that wraps up our presentation, and we are open for any questions that you may have.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Questions from council? Nicholas, go ahead.
Thank you, Walter. If we as council would like to take a leadership role to support attainable or affordable housing in West Perth, what programs or partnerships would you suggest for us to engage?
Thank you. Through your worship, we're going to answer this in a partnership, okay? I can say one of the key things is identifying lands to begin with and have them shovel ready. That is one of the key things. When projects come down, they come down fast, and the funding is, you have to have the projects in, the plans in quickly to get the funding. And I will add to Jeff, I will add also, it's not necessarily about new builds as well. It's about looking at vacancy rates so that we can attach subsidies to rental units to make them affordable. But I'll let you add on to the expert.
Oh, thank you, Kim. I think that was excellent. Yeah, I think identifying potential land, potential area, and shovel ready when you see a lot of potential funding opportunities come up, and the turnaround for these things can be quite quick. So knowing what's available, knowing what inventory is in our community is always helpful, and that there's a will to move forward with affordable, attainable. That piece is always helpful. looking at broader things, we're happy to connect with your administrative team and planning department to talk about other ways to move forward as well.
Deputy Mayor Jankowski.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Kim, do either you or any of your staff have any comment on accessory dwelling units, the possibility of exploring those as a means of dealing with the housing situation? I didn't see the term mentioned specifically in your presentation, but I just wanted to ask if you had any consideration in your planning about that part of trying to solve the problem that way.
Through your worship. So generally speaking, that falls with our planners on that end of it. From a social services perspective, we acknowledge that in many times people cannot afford the current rental rates. So when we look at the accessory units, that may bring down the rental costs in some, depending on, and so that would be one means to increase the rental units for the community from the social services mandate.
I guess I was just curious if there is an active interaction between your department and the planning department. Are you people talking regularly back and forth on that issue?
Yeah, sorry, through the chair, yes, through the different planners, through the county planners, as well as our own and St. Mary's. We do have a strong partnership with all the planning departments.
Thank you.
Council Fournier, you have a question? Andrew? Anybody else have a question? Oh, is he there? Go ahead, Andrew.
Fantastic. Can you hear me now, Mayor McKenzie?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Yeah, I just had three simple questions, if you don't mind. How is the average market rent determined for Perth County and Stratford? And what are moderate market rents? That's my first question, if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you, through your worship. So the average market rent is determined by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. It's for all communities across Canada, based on what they see rental costs being in the community. As I mentioned, what we do is we take a scan of what the rental market looks like. We do that through a little bit more granular look by looking at, say, ads on Kijiji, ads in newspapers, that sort of thing, which may capture things that aren't captured when you're looking, when an organization the size of CMHC is looking across the country. And we use that to develop what we believe is more locally suitable average market rent. Then we, as I mentioned, we put a business case to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for approval, and with that we come up with the alternate average market rents, which is slightly different than, which is usually a little bit more than CMHC's. I'm not sure what the moderate market rent is, but maybe you were referring to the 80% of the average market rent, which is what we use for our affordable housing rents.
No, it's a term used at one point in your document. I'm afraid I haven't marked down the exact page where it's at, but it's a term used in your document, but it's undefined.
Okay.
I'll leave that aside and possibly look that up on my own later. Can I move on to my second question, if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
For your Britannia Street affordable housing project, I noticed that the income minimum for your one bedroom comes in at $860 more than the full-time income that you'd make at the new minimum wage in Ontario and Canada. Could you tell me why the minimum income for a one-bedroom would be set at more than full-time at minimum?
Yes, thank you, through your worship. So our minimum income rates are based on our monthly rental rates. So the monthly rental rates, as I mentioned, are set in conjunction with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Our minimum income rates are based on a percentage of that monthly income, which we use because we don't want to see people falling behind on being able to pay their rent, that sort of thing. We want to make sure that all of our tenants who are living there are able to live there comfortably and suitably.
May I ask why, in that case, you have your rent set at, as you stated, 80% of the AMR, when affordable housing is stated as being at 80% or less than the AMR? If you set it as at somewhat less than the AMR instead of just at 80%, you would be including people that are working at minimum wage and doing their best, but fall short by $860.
Yes, thank you for the question. We set that, so part of the funding for this project was provided by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and we settled on the 80% AMR rents in conjunction and collaboration with them. Certainly, looking forward or going forward, we can look at other potential opportunities for deeper subsidies with affordable rental housing, but this one we've already set our agreements for it.
Understood. Thank you very much. And please understand, I'm not trying to sound critical. What you're doing is amazing, but I do have one last final question for you, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Do you
Andrew.
have an easily accessible document that would actually lay out or provide a path towards all of the services that are available? I'm asking on behalf of basically other blue collar folks like myself in the area. When it comes to trying to figure out what is available through government websites, it's a maze. It's really hard to find your way. Do you have a pamphlet or something of the sort that could be distributed to workplaces around the area so that people know what is available to them?
Thank you, through the worship. There's a couple suggestions that it really determines the service that you're looking for. We do have the website, our city website, that will show the services that are available, frequently asked questions, that is part of the CMSM. The second subsidiary one that I always recommend is the 211. So if you phone 211 or go on the 211 website and put in keywords, it should identify services available for whatever the need is within the community. And so those are the two things, resources that I would say off the top of my head.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate your time.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Rose?
Yes, you had mentioned about new build, and did I hear right that there's also maybe a program for existing, that we could use maybe some of the older buildings or something that could be made into more attainable housing as far as renting?
Thank you, through your worship. As I kind of mentioned earlier, it's always good to have projects in mind when there's always different funding opportunities through CMHC and through the province where they can potentially retrofit older buildings, that sort of things. So yes, certainly if there's more interest, I could provide more information on different avenues for that through the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, but there's always opportunities through the federal government if that's what you're looking for.
I was just thinking there's, as an example, the main street uptown. There's a lot of the buildings are there. They might need some TLC. But if that was something, you know, that could, if there was a program there, not that, because there's new build, but if we could use or utilize the existing, it surely would be a lot less money than building brand new. If we could use something and maybe just bring it back up the way it should be. Yeah. If that, and it's uptown, so it's close and that aspect, maybe things would work.
Yeah, thank you through your worship. These are typically projects between private landlords and funders like the CMHC, but I'm happy to provide resources or help out as I can with that. No problem.
Okay, I'd like to wrap it up here if we can. We've got a few other things to do yet tonight as well. So last call, if there anybody has an urgent question, we can ask it. But otherwise, thank you very much for coming this evening. And as you can tell by some of the questions, it's obviously been conversations that we've had going on here previously. So we appreciate you kind of filling in the holes and giving us a bit of an update.
Thank you through your worship. And yes, we're just a phone call away.
Very good. Thanks,
Take care.
Ken. And Tyler's on. Okay, our next delegation is a Zoom delegation. And it is the County of Perth Forestry Program. And I believe, is it Tyler? Sean's going to do this one, is he? Okay. Are you there, Sean?
Through you, Mayor McKenzie. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Good.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. I did have a slide deck that was included, I believe, in your agenda. I don't know if somebody's going to be able to run that or if you just have the slides there. Oh, there we go. Ask and ye shall receive. Okay, so just going to provide a brief overview of the county's forestry program, and I believe this is the previous slide before mine. There we go. Tremendous, thank you. Next slide, please. So we're going to cover some background information, including some of the legislation, some history of the bylaw, and the requisite delegated authority for the lower tiers to regulate the injury and destruction of trees and woodlots under 1 hectare in size, as well as some quick information about the ash tree amendment, the notice of intent process, or NOI, reporting, tree grant program, and we'll also touch briefly on weed inspection. Next slide, please. So much of our program relates to the regulating and destruction or injury of trees in the county. Tree canopy accounts for only about 9% of the county's coverage, which is well under our neighbors. For example, Huron County has about 16% tree coverage. So the goal of the program is to promote responsible forestry practices and to improve county forest coverage, while also supporting our woodlots and woodlands for the benefit of our ecosystems, as well as recreational and aesthetic enjoyment for the members of our community and visitors to our region. Next slide, please. The authority for municipalities to regulate the injury and destruction of trees is found under Section 135 of the Municipal Act. Upper tiers have authority over woodlands of 1 hectare or larger as defined in the Forestry Act. And this woodland definition includes a specific minimum density levels for trees of various sizes and is reflected in the definitions included in our bylaw. So our definition of a woodland matches the definition of a woodland in the Forestry Act. Local municipalities, or in our case, the lower tiers, such as West Perth, don't have any defined area limiting their authority. So under the Municipal Act, a lower tier municipality can essentially regulate any tree. However, in our bylaw, the scope of this authority has been limited to trees within woodlots, which are wooded areas with a minimum specified density of 0.2 hectares to 1 hectare in size. And this authority is granted
the authority granted in the Municipal Act also extends to enforcing conditions on harvesting trees and permitting. Next slide, please. Perth County has been regulating the destruction or injury of trees in some form or another by bylaw since 1947. And this bylaw has been updated over the years, and the most current version is bylaw number 3836, 2021, an authority for the county to enforce injury and destruction of trees and woodlots under 1 hectare pursuant to the bylaw has been delegated from each of the lower tiers, and those corresponding bylaws are listed here on this slide. Next slide, please. I just want to take a moment to highlight a few of the sections of the bylaw. The first is section 2, which is a general prohibition for the destruction and injury of any tree in a woodland or woodlot as defined in the bylaw. There are 2 exceptions to this under section 3. One is destruction or injury of trees pursuant to a silvicultural prescription, which is a site-specific forestry management plan prepared by a professional forester according to good forestry practices. The other is destruction or injury of trees pursuant to the diameter and circumference limits listed per species in Schedule A of the bylaw. And this part also rolls into our ash tree amendment, which allows for reduced diameter and circumference limits for ash species listed in Schedule A, which was established to facilitate more efficient removal of ash trees impacted by emerald ash borer. Section 5 lists a number of exemptions from the bylaw, many of which are mandatory under the Municipal Act, and these are specific circumstances where the bylaw would not apply. And the rest of the bylaw details things such as work orders, offenses, and penalties. And of course, there's the aforementioned Schedule A, which specifies the diameter and circumference limits for species of trees listed therein. Okay, next slide, please. As I touched on briefly previously, the bylaw has been amended to facilitate a more streamlined approach to removing ash trees, which may be impacted by emerald ash borer. The first was a temporary amendment in December of 2019, which reduced the diameter and circumference limits for ash trees to 0. And this expired in September of 2022 and was replaced with a reduced diameter and circumference limit to help preserve ash borer resistant seedlings and saplings, which really don't provide sufficient sustenance to support ash borer infestations. Next slide, please. The notice of intent, or NOI, is the primary tool we use for enforcement of the bylaw. Every harvesting project in a woodland or woodlot needs to have a corresponding notice submitted to the county, and the process for this is detailed in section 6 of the bylaw. To summarize though, depending on the method of harvest, notices need to be submitted to the county by a certain time frame before the project commences, and then a receipted copy is then returned to the contractor, and materials submitted are also forwarded to our weed and tree inspector, Marvin Smith, who does coordinate all the inspection processes with the contractor and or the landowner. Next slide, please. So it's important for me to emphasize right now that our notice of intent is not a permit. We simply require notice so that inspections can be conducted to make sure that contractors and landowners are agreeing to carry out their projects pursuant to the requirements of the bylaw. So as such, there's no fees or anything associated with carrying out a harvesting project as long as it's pursuant to the requirements of the bylaw. And as a result, we have a very cost and time effective process for landowners and contractors, and there's also a very high prevalence of compliance. Next slide, please. Forestry program reporting is carried out a number of ways. First of all, there are monthly tree inspector reports that are provided to county council and circulated to the lower tiers for information. In the first quarter of every year, staff prepare an annual administration report that provides statistics regarding notice of intent submissions and other activities carried out during the previous year. And also in the first quarter, there's an annual weed inspector report. And of course, we always have ad hoc reports to facilitate updates, amendments, and other items of interest related to the forestry program as they arise. Next slide, please. Now, the county also has a tree grant program as part of its cultivating opportunity grant program. This isn't really part of the forestry program, but because it's tree related, I thought I would take an opportunity to discuss it here. So this consists of a now $25,000 budget annually to be distributed to each of the lower tier municipalities, to the lower tier municipalities based on weighted assessment. So the $25,000 is dispersed and depending on the weighted assessment, that's the portion of the 25,000 you would receive. Those municipalities then use the funds as they see fit to plant new trees, either directly or through tree subsidy programs. And starting this year, the county is requiring some basic statistical reporting for program evaluation purposes. And this shouldn't be too onerous. The reporting was developed based on feedback I received from each of the lower tiers on information they're pretty much already collecting. So basically, we just want to be able to collect this information and report back on the county level so we can share all of the great work that the money is being put towards. Next slide, please. The other hat worn by our tree inspector is for weed inspection. So this relates to enforcement under the Weed Control Act and applies to 25 provincially designated weeds, as well as to locally designated weeds. And enforcement is complaint driven, and the inspector does work with landowners to develop eradication strategies, and depending if necessary, will issue work orders. Next slide, please. If you're interested in more information, we do have a handy webpage on the county website. There's all sorts of great information about the program, including the bylaw and the notice of intent process, as well as everything you'd want to know about noxious weeds and local invasive species. We also have a video of an information session we conducted in December of 2021, which includes an overview of the bylaw, including the updates in the most current version, as well as presentations from our weed and tree inspector and our prosecutor. So lots of good information in that video. It's about 40, 50 minutes long. And if you're curious about the program and some of the ways it works and you want to hear from the people that are involved directly in it, it's a good watch. And if you have any questions about the program in general, absolutely feel free to contact us at Legislative Services Division. However, we always recommend that if you have site-specific questions about a particular woodland or woodlot, or just need clarification on how the bylaw may or may not apply to your own property, I would recommend contacting our weed and tree inspector, Marvin Smith, directly. His contact information is available here and on the website as well. And next slide, please. And that's my contact information there. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to receive them now. I do know we're running short on time probably. So if you do think of anything later, feel free to contact me directly. This is my email and my phone number as well. And that's everything I wanted to share here today. If there's any questions, I'm happy to receive them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Questions for Sean? There's looks like there's only about 15 questions here, Sean. Which one do we take first? Andrew, do you have a question?
I had a minor question about invasive species, but I'm not sure it's pertinent to his presentation. Essentially, does the weed inspector, is there perhaps any sort of map of invasive species in the area that could be accessed? Some of them are actually quite hazardous.
Yeah, I think Jeff can maybe answer that one as good as any. Upper Thames has been involved with that. Jeff, I'll let you take it.
Sure. I guess, there's lists of noxious weeds and that's what Marvin helps us with. And then as far as mapping of invasive weed outbreaks go, the only ones that we're mapping in West Perth are the Phragmites outbreaks that we have in the wetlands that we've been working on, and the Japanese knotweed outbreaks in the floodplain, mainly in the floodplain between Huron Road and Frank Street, with one other minor outbreak that we've also been working on. And we've got budget in our Environment, Forestry and Trails Committee that we've been actively managing those outbreaks to try to get them under control.
Okay. All right, if there's no questions, I think we're going to take a 5-minute break here. We're about halfway through our agenda. So we've still got a fair bit to do yet, but we'll just take a 5-minute break for washroom break and stretch or whatever, and we'll be back here at 9:21. So he'll. Mine's are gonna, well, we have John first. We have the, no, we don't. No, we have Rachel first. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, bring Rachel on. I haven't seen a thumbnail. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, we're going to move along. Another delegation here from the county, and this delegation is Rachel Cannon, and it has to do with Perth County accessibility. So Rachel, if you're with us, if you can.
Mayor McKenzie, I'm going to start. It's Tyler with the county.
Okay, all right. We'll allow that, I guess, Tyler.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So through you, Mayor McKenzie, two members of council, thank you for having us today. Just a brief introduction before we get started. I'm Tyler Sager. I'm the manager of legislative services / the clerk with Perth County, and with me is Rachel Cannon, the legislative assistant with Perth County. So before council is the 2023-2027 Perth County Joint Accessibility Plan. This is our multi-year plan that we are bringing forward to all the lower tiers as well as the upper tier municipality with respect of the 2023-2027 years. Rachel has put together majority of this presentation and has done an immense amount of work on this. So it's only right if she presents it. I do want to thank lower tier staff for assisting, as I'm sure she will too. But if there are any questions, I will be around at the end of the presentation to answer those. So Rachel, the floor is yours.
Great, Tyler, thank you. Through you, Mayor McKenzie and council, can everyone hear me okay?
You're good. You're good.
Perfect. Great. So good evening. Like Tyler said, today we're here just to do a really high level overview of our joint accessibility plan. We aren't going to get into the nitty gritty. You have the full plan and a formal report before you, so feel free to read that at your own leisure. Today, we're just going to do our best to spotlight the great pieces that ours and your staff have worked diligently on throughout this entire process. Next slide, please. Great. So this is going to be our roadmap for tonight. Again, shouldn't take up too much of your time. Next slide. So just to provide some context why we're here today. So the legislation of the AODA states that we as a county must have an accessibility plan, and it has to be updated at least once every 5 years. This document before you is the update to the prior Perth County Accessibility Plan document, and that spanned from 2018 to 2022. Next slide, please. Great. So to give you a bit more context, the Perth County Joint Accessibility Plan in its whole spans across all areas of the county and is a collaborative effort with the lower tiers and the upper tier. The information reflected in the plan is a collation of information on behalf of managers, both at the county level and on behalf of all lower tier departments. This information was, of course, graciously collected by your clerk, Daniel Hobson. Altogether, the Perth County Accessibility Plan is a reflection of our intentions at the municipal level to meet our obligations under the AODA. Next slide, please. Great. We'll just give you a brief overview of our accessibility program at the county level. So staff at the upper tier do manage an overarching accessibility plan. Of course, this is in addition to the responsibilities that are held at the lower tier with regard to things like the building code and employment training requirements in relation to accessibility. At the county level, we handle things like policies, procedures, and systems that relate to accessibility. We also ensure compliant and accessible services and facilities across the county. We're the main point of contact for accessibility concerns or inquiries that clerks or other departments might need assistance with. We also manage the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee. We provide administrative support for them. And again, of course, this is mandated through provincial legislation as a requirement. And finally, our staff provide various training and resources as needed. A great example of this, of course, is Sean McCoy's quarterly trainings. Next slide. Great. We're going to move into the plan now. So with the entire plan before you, we don't want to go into too much depth here. We're just going to touch on some again, overarching broad trends and threads that we're seeing through the majority of the plan here. So first, we're going to cover some of the highlights of the plan in the next 5 years. Some of these that we've noticed running throughout the entire plan are a focus on communication throughout the county and its accessibility program, initiatives and projects. We're also seeing a continued prioritization of internal and external education to support community members, businesses, and staff with the implementation of various accessibility initiatives. Third, we're seeing a continued prioritization of diversity and inclusion and the county's commitment to impactful initiatives for all members of the community in this plan. Next, we're taking an age-friendly lens for accessibility to, of course, continue to better support the aging population of Perth County. And finally, we're committing to remain a leader in accessibility and to maintain up-to-date on provincial and federal regulations and requirements. Next slide. Great. This is a major piece that we put in here that was new this year compared to past plans. It's our public engagement strategy. Really exciting piece. We were able to implement this with the help of our communications officer at the county here, Sarah Franklin. Again, we're not going to go into too much depth tonight, but just want to give you a brief overview of what we did to engage the public. So we ran a 24-question digital survey for about a month, variation between long and short answer questions. This was promoted at the lower tier and upper tiers through social media and website messaging. We also leveraged our JAC network as well. Next slide. Perfect. To give you an idea of how our public engagement demographics broke down, we had 22 respondents. 20 of those were within Perth County and 2 were out of county, although I will make a note that the 2 out of county either work in Perth County or are looking to move to Perth County. So they do have a vested interest in the accessibility of the county. You can see sort of how the demographics broke down in terms of the lower tiers. Next slide, please. We also asked the question, do you identify as someone living with a disability? We were really pleased to see that about half of our respondents do identify as that and half did not. So we had a really great mix of opinions and information reflected in our answers. Next slide, please. Great. We're just going to show you one question here, and that was one that we were quite pleased with to see. So this question is, do you feel that Perth County is an inclusive place for those who are living with disabilities? I'm very pleased to see that the majority of the answers here were positive. So that means that our accessibility program and initiatives are making a great impact and providing, increased accessibility for our community members. Next slide. Great. Again, we're going to go through some of the trends and then some of the goals. These are all overarching and not specific to any one lower tier. First, in terms of trends, we're seeing great progress with regard to accessibility of meetings and court services using various technology and process upgrades. Second, all municipalities reported continued support for staff training and accessibility. Third, with the rollout of the PC Connect service, staff were able to ensure that the service meets the transportation standard of the IASR. And finally, all of our municipalities reported in one way or another, updating public spaces through continued renovations and upgrades that improve accessibility. Some of those examples are the court wayfinding system, tactile plate installation across the community sidewalks, and various power door installations. Next slide. Perfect. Again, we're going to go into some of the goals. So this is moving into the next 5 years of the plan, the trends that we're seeing at all of the municipalities. The first major trend was a continued focus on remediation of websites to meet the WCAG 2.0 compliance standards. Of course, that's mandated by the province. Second, we saw many, if not all, lower tiers report that they're looking into various digital tools like Cloud Permit and others to provide enhanced access and customer service on the digital front. Third, municipalities in Perth County continue to look to improve their buildings' accessibility by either retrofitting them or updating specifically for accessibility purposes. And finally, all of the municipalities have expressed the fact that they'll be continuing to prioritize training and education, both internally and externally, to increase our overall accessibility knowledge. Next slide. Great. So just to give you an idea of where we're headed next, we just want to make a note that the county will continue to provide and collate information into an annual update, which will appear at all of our lower tiers, just like this report does on an annual basis. Again, this is just to keep you updated with regard to various accessibility initiatives, goals, and trends. The next steps for this specific plan is that we're going to continue our roadshow. We finish in Perth East tomorrow, and then we'll be presenting it at County Council this week for final approval, where it will be approved and published on the county website. Next slide, please. Great. And with that, we just want to thank everyone who's contributed to the draft process of the Joint Accessibility Plan. It's entirely collaborative, and we were very proud to be able to bring this document forward as a whole. So with that, the plan and the presentation before you, does anyone have any questions tonight?
Any questions for Rachel on that? Andrew, do you have a question at all?
No, thank you.
Okay, I don't believe there's any questions. So we do have a recommendation here, and it's that the municipality of West Perth receives the 2023-2027 Joint Accessibility Plan Report, and that West Perth Council approve the Perth County 2023-2027 Joint Accessibility Plan. We have a mover and seconder for that, Councillor Chessel, Councillor Rose. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Tyler.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you so
Have
much.
a good night.
Okay, moving on, we have planning now, and we have the consent or severance application file B04-23. John, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. We've all kind of heard kind of a quick overview of the zoning process here. So we're going to go fairly quickly through the consent process here. There's two consents proposed for 34 Napier Street. One is B04-23 and one is B05-23. I'm going to quick go through B04-23 and then perhaps through you, there can be Mayor McKenzie, through you, there could be perhaps a vote after that, and then I'll keep going after that, if you don't mind. So we can go to the next one here. So the application proposes to sever one new lot from the subject lands for the purpose of a single detached dwelling. The lot will be 583 meters squared, but 0.14 acres in the area, and have approximately 17 meters of frontage on Napier Street. The applicant is proposing to build one new one-story single attached dwelling with an entrance onto Napier Street. The retained portion would be about 976 square meters, about a quarter of an acre in area, and has approximately close to about 30 meters of frontage on Napier Street. And that lot contains an existing residential dwelling that is serviced. So the property is designated residential in the Municipal Water Official Plan. A development agreement is recommended as one of the conditions of consent, and that is essentially for connections to municipal services. So the Mitchell Ward Official Plan, section 5153, includes policies for evaluating proposals which involve the development of single detached homes. The proposed single detached dwelling is in conformity with the West Perth zoning bylaw regarding front yard, side yard, and rear yard setbacks and lot coverage. The proposed single detached dwelling conforms with the front yard setback requirement of the West Perth zoning bylaw. This is 6 meters, and this 6 meter requirement is in place to ensure scaling and mass of the building facade doesn't negatively impact the surrounding area. The proposed single attached dwelling will be 1 story in height, which is consistent with other low density development neighborhoods. The lot sizes in the area range from about 340 square meters to 3,330 square meters. It's just a bit of a reference there. So in the Mitchell Ward official plan does promote intensification and sets a goal of 15% of all new housing to occur through way of intensification and redevelopment. And this proposal helps contribute towards that 15% goal. So the subject lands are currently zoned R3 in the West Perth zoning bylaw. And this residential lot conforms with those R3 zones. Notice of application was given on March 13th, and a notice sign was installed on the property. No concerns have been submitted for this B0423 consent application. Thanks.
Okay, so we do have a recommendation here, and I'm going to assume there's 5 conditions that are part of that motion. I'm assuming that everybody has had ample opportunity to read those 5 conditions. So I'm going to read the recommendation, which is that West Perth Council endorse the consent application B0423 affecting lands described as Park Lot 33, Plan 339, known as 34 Napier Street, Mitchell Ward, Municipality of West Perth, to the Perth County Land Division Committee or its delegated authority, and that with West Perth Council forward the conditions listed below to the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its delegated authority. And there are those 5 conditions listed there. Do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Chessel, Councillor Rose. Any further discussion on this? Any questions?
Is this
Nicholas?
one going to be by delegated authority, or is this one going to go to the committee?
John, you could maybe answer it better than I can.
Yeah, through you, Mayor McKenzie, since we haven't received any comments or correspondence, I would assume it would go through DA.
Yeah. The question is with the zoning, I think, and the construction. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments on that, it's been duly moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay, moving on, file B0523.
Thank you again, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So this B0523 application is for the southern, the yellow colored here. And that was identified through the ZBA that we had discussed earlier. So this severed lot will be about, again, 1/3 of an acre in area and have approximately 33 meters of frontage on Clayton Street and 38 meters on Napier Street. So 3 driveway entrances would be proposed from Napier Street. The retained portion, again, about 1/4 of an acre with frontage on Napier Street. So the property is designated residential in the Mitchell Ward official plan, similar to the B0423 consent application. So a development agreement is also recommended for this application. And again, it's for the requirements of municipal servicing. And there's also a subsection of that condition for this specific application. And that's subsection B, which recommends that the development agreement with the municipality of West Perth require planting a sufficient number of trees, aid in vegetative screening of the development. Essentially, since there's going to be some replanting done, that was pretty much the reason behind the recommended condition. So there's replanting associated with that as well as normal planting. So we've kind of gone through density through the zone, but I would be happy to answer questions on any sort of density questions after the finished presentation here. So section 5154 of the Mitchell Ward official plan outlines requirements for proposals involving townhouses. and low-rise apartment dwellings. The proposed 3-unit townhouse is located close in proximity to the neighborhood recreational space that is the Mitchell Memorial Forest, and that's just north of the train tracks there. The proposed 3-unit townhouse will be set back 10.66 meters from the neighbor at 57 Clayton. And if you look at this image, that neighbor would be directly to the west or looking straight at that dwelling on that property. This is greater than the 4.5 meter requirement, and we discussed this at the zone stage. The severed parcel is surrounded by low density, single detached and semi-detached dwellings. And these lot sizes range from 347 meters squared to 3,300 meters squared. There is a lower number of parcels for medium to high density residential in the area, but some of which do include 22 Eleanor Street and 43 Upper Thames Lane. The zoning bylaw amendment that is being sought was discussed earlier, so I won't go into that, but I'm happy to answer questions. There was a concern there was one concern identified through this consent, so it will go to the Land Division Committee for BO 523. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, John. Any questions offhand? Okay. Oh, sorry, Doug, didn't see your hand.
As the neighbors discussed there, is there an opportunity to continue that fence over to make good neighbors, or instead of the vegetative screening, or?
Through you, Mayor McKenzie, that kind of discussion, there is a requirement for the planting strip, and the minimum height for a planting strip is 1.75 meters. So that is going to be required through the zoning bylaw. Whether or not they go for the fence idea is another consideration that maybe the developer can have with those neighbors. I just want to point out, I'm going to go back to the one, there we go. There is already a fence located at 57, as you can see. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Yep, thank you. That's a good comment.
Okay. We don't have a mover and seconder. No, we haven't done the movers. Okay, so I'll read the recommendation, and it is that West Perth Council endorse the consent application BO 523 affecting land subscribed as Park Lot 33, Plan 339, known as 34 Napier Street, Mitchell Ward, Municipality of West Perth, Perth County Land to the Perth County Land Division Committee or its delegated authority, and that West Perth Council forward the conditions listed below to the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its delegated authority. And there is 6 conditions there, and I'm assuming that everybody has read them, is okay with those conditions. Do we have a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Duck, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. BO8, where are we? There we go. Okay, BO8, sorry. All right, so now BO8, John. BO8 23.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. We'll just pull up the slide here. But perfect. Thanks, Hannah. So BO8 23 is a consent application for a surplus farm dwelling severance. It's located at, here we go here, 6476 Perth Line 44, which is in between the communities of Bornholm and Broadhagen. It's in the Logan Ward. So this application, which has been deemed surplus to the needs of a consolidated farm operation, the subject lands are actively cropped and are surrounded by agricultural uses on all sides. And like I said, the property is located in between Broadhagen and Bornholm. The consent sketch prepared by MTE and submitted with the applicant illustrates the proposed severed lot with frontage of about 44.5 meters and 146 of frontage, and a lot area of approximately 4,900 square meters, which is about 1.2 acres. The proposed severed lot contains an existing farm dwelling, a well, and septic. The proposed retained farm lot would have a frontage of approximately 363 meters along Perth line 44, with a lot area of approximately 41 hectares or 102 acres. The proposed retained farm lot is used for cash crop and doesn't contain any structures. So both the severed lot and the retained lot will be required to be rezoned as a condition of consent. The severed portion will need to go to A1, and the retained portion will need to go to A3 to ensure no residential dwellings will be permitted. So this is a photo of the dwelling dated March 29th. The proposed severed lot does not contain any farm uses or unnecessary open spaces. Severed lot is minimal of size and does not include any more prime ag than necessary. The dwelling is habitable. Notice of application was given on March 13th by regular mail, and no comments have been received from members of the public. You can answer any questions. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, John. Any outstanding questions on this surplus farmhouse severance? Okay, if not, the recommendation is that West Perth Council endorse the consent application file B 0823, affecting lands described as Lot 22, Concession 9, Logan Ward, Municipality of West Perth, known as 6476 line 44, to the Perth County Land Division Committee or its delegated authority, and that West Perth Council forward the conditions listed below to the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its delegated authority. And there are 6 conditions that are there. And again, I assume everybody has had a chance to look at them over the weekend and are okay with them. So if there's no concerns, we'll take a mover and seconder to deal with that. Moved by Councillor Felt, second by Councillor Chessel. Any discussion? Last chance. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you, John. Okay, moving on then. We have a CAO report.
Good evening, Council. Submitted a report for you that's in conjunction with application B 34/2020, which you may recall from a recent meeting, the Benaways meeting. The report that we're asking, or the recommendation that we're asking, is that Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the final development agreement in the municipality and Perry and Kathy Benaways. And what it is a consent servicing agreement. It articulates the nature of the services, the cost for the road construction, distribution of benefit. I mentioned to Council, it's a little bit unusual in that it's not anticipated that the Benaways will be the developer, but they're currently the owners, and they are effectively the owner of the land until the severance is completed and the land is transferred to the developer that we understand has a purchase and sale agreement. So there's clauses in the agreement that we will develop that will articulate the opportunity for assignment of the agreement. This agreement simply allows the municipality to recover the costs for the construction on the west side of the road and the installation of services, which were all done with the full disclosure to the landowners on the west side. And I would ask Council to approve the recommendation in order for us to proceed. And we'd like it done at this meeting because there's a closing date for a real estate transaction that they would like to get completed.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff on that? That's been in front of this council a number of times over the last while, so I think we're all familiar with it. If there is no questions, then the recommendation is the Council Municipality of West Perth authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the final development agreement between the municipality and Perry and Kathy Benowitz. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Trinkowski, Councillor Rose, all those in favor, opposed, if any, that is carried. We don't have any correspondence, I don't believe. Council reports can wait until our next meeting. Bylaws, we have, what do we got? 4, I guess. Bylaw 14, drainage works for the Consett Municipal Drain. Bylaw 15 is the Reynolds Municipal Drain. Bylaw 16 is amendment, appoint members to the various committees and authorities in the municipality of West Perth. And bylaw 17 is a bylaw to repeal and replace bylaw 67 to establish and require payment of various fees and charges for the municipality of West Perth. So we need a motion that we give first and second reading, sorry, and to bylaw 14, 15, 16, and 17 this third day of April. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor O'Donnell and Councillor Foster. And the only comment I would make is, and I've talked to Dan and talked to Dean about it, is I think we're lacking some members or a member on the cemetery board, but we can add them at a future time. So duly moved and seconded. If there's no questions, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. And then the final recommendation here is that we give the municipality of West Perth gives third and final reading to bylaw 17th, this third day of April. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose, Councillor Phelps, and the only reason that the other ones don't is because we'll do the third reading when we do the court of revision on the drains. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. No notices of motion that I'm aware of, unless somebody wants to pull one out of their hat here tonight. Any other business? We do have a closed session. So motion that we go into a closed session at 9:54 for the purpose of addressing matters related to litigation or potential litigation, an OLT appeal, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, committee, or board member. So a motion that we go into closed session moved by Councilor Chessel, seconded by Councilor O'Donnell. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we're back into open session here, and we did have a closed meeting, closed session here, and council went into a closed session to discuss a legal matter regarding an OLT appeal and discuss personal matters regarding the committee and board appointments. So we have a resolution coming out of this that the council of the Municipality of West Perth give third and final reading to bylaw 16, 2023, this third day of April. Moved by Deputy Mayor Jankowski, seconded by Councillor Duck. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Now, I gotta find my agenda again. We're right here. Okay, so I have nothing further other than the confirmatory bylaw and the motion to adjourn. So the confirmatory bylaw is bylaw number 18, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council Corporation of Municipality of West Perth. We read a first and second time this third day of April. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? That is carried. And finally, bylaw 18, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth, be read a third time and finally passed this third day of April 2023. Moved by Councillor O'Donnell, second by Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Did I miss something? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, we can do that before we adjourn then. So our next meeting is April the 17th. And then we have a volunteer recruitment fair on April the 19th, starting at 5 o'clock from 5 to 8. And I do believe Lloyd Robinson. Oh, that's the second one. So, okay, all right. That's the recruitment fair. And then we have a West Perth Volunteer Appreciation Night, which is on April the 20th. And we have Lloyd Robinson coming to that one to be as a guest speaker, and he's going to have some books there and sign them and that. So little different format. It's actually a format that we had planned, I think 3 years ago. So we're just following through on that. So, so that's the upcoming events that we have. So if there's nothing else, we need a motion to adjourn at 10:54. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Harold and Councillor O'Donnell, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you.